It's no mistake to say that the U.S. is a country that went from enslaving black people to wiping out the communities they built post-slavery. Today, most of its white citizens are prohibiting the teaching of that history while simultaneously promoting a false account of that history.
Over the past couple years, more Americans have become familiar with the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, where a white mob burned a vibrant black community to the ground, which is crazy. Even crazier, dozens of other black towns have been erased off the American map, not by burning them down, but by hiding them underwater.
Imagine a world where the very foundations of your community are deliberately destroyed, where the memories of your ancestors are submerged beneath the waves, and where the price of progress is paid in the currency of displacement and despair.
If we've learned one thing today, it's never assume something is unsinkable.
This is the heartbreaking reality that has haunted countless black towns across America, forcibly flooded and drowned to create lakes, reservoirs, and other waterways.
There are over 100 drowned American towns, and many were destroyed in the name of something called development-induced displacement. That's when people have to leave their homes so the government can develop things like dams or parks or lakes.
The stories of these devastated communities, hidden beneath the surface of America's tranquil lakes, are a testament to the nation's troubled past, a past marked by systemic racism, environmental injustice, and the erasure of black identity, and communities that thrived against the odds, building their own schools, churches, and businesses, integrating patiently in surroundings that has done nothing other than enslave and despise them unendingly.
These drowned towns are part of the Black American history they don't want to teach you. It's ugly and it's gross and we don't even know all of it. And the more we find out, the harder it is to love this place that would do those things to so many people.
In this video, we'll be taking a full dive into the painful histories of black towns that were flooded to make lakes and honoring the legacies of those who called them home. We shall further explore the complex web of racism, politics, and environmental exploitation that led to these tragedies, amplifying the voices of those who fought to preserve their communities and way of life. Before we continue on this painful and memorable chapter of history, kindly consider offering your support by hitting on the thumb button. Share this video with your friends, families, and associates at large. Also subscribe to our channel if you are yet to, in order to access more eye-opening and mind-blowing contents on hidden black narratives. Now let us uncover the history of the sad erasure of 20 black towns, amongst a whole several other lots of them, that were drowned and turned into lakes, turning the blacks in these towns hopelessly displaced, beginning with number 1, Oscarville, Georgia.
This is Lake Lanier. It's a lake in Forsyth County, Georgia, where people go swimming and boating and fishing and do a bunch of other lakey things. But before it was Lake Lanier, it was a town called Oscarville, Georgia.
On August 3rd, the body of a 27-year-old man was found in Georgia's Lake Lanier. Days earlier, he had disappeared and drowned while swimming. The week before, another man drowned in the lake, and a few days before that, on July 27th, a 24-year-old jumped into the lake where he was electrocuted and later died. For folks who are familiar with Lake Lanier, a Georgia landmark, these tragic deaths aren't surprising. Over the years, hundreds of people have died there, making Lake Lanier one of the deadliest lakes in the United States. Christmas Day, 1964, is known as the deadliest day at Lake Lanier, when a driver lost control of their car while crossing a bridge. The car then flipped into the lake, where 5 children and 2 adults drowned. In 2012, the 11-year-old son of Tamika Foster, Usher's ex-wife, died at Lake Lanier. During the 11th anniversary of her son's death, Foster launched a petition to drain, clean, and restore the lake. Bearing in mind its history, one can only imagine what will be found if Lake Lanier is drained. Lake Lanier is a man-made 38,000-acre lake that attracts about 10 million visitors every year, bringing in a whopping sum of about $5 billion annually to North Georgia's economy. The lake is located in the affluent Forsyth County, which has the highest median income in metro Atlanta. Lake Lanier is a popular weekend destination known for fishing, boating, and so much more, including an eerie reputation that has deemed it as haunted in Georgia. This fact is especially interesting, considering that the body of water covers what was once a thriving black community called Oscarville. The community, formed during the late 1800s, was filled with successful farmers, carpenters, and blacksmiths, until Oscarville's more than 1,000 residents were violently forced out by white Forsyth County residents.
Oscarville was a thriving, predominantly black community with a church, a school, and dozens of homes, until the year 1912, when a very bad thing happened.
The lake's story perpetuates deep into the happenings of September 1912, when an 18-year-old white girl named May Crow was found injured after being assaulted in the woods less than a mile from her family's home. The wounds had been so severe that she later died, and as such, couldn't tell the tale of her ordeal in the woods. Despite the absence of witnesses or evidence, a 24-year-old black man, Rob Edwards, was arrested, but he was later taken from the county jail by a mob of white residents, brutally beaten with crowbars, shot repeatedly, and dragged to the town square, where his mutilated body was lynched on a telephone pole. Additionally, Edwards' wife, Jane Daniel, their neighbor Ed Collins, Jane's cousin Oscar Daniel, and Oscar Daniel's cousin Ernest Knox were arrested. Knox and Oscar Daniel, both teens, were convicted by all-white juries before being hung in front of about 5,000 spectators. After the trials and executions, white men, known as night riders, forced black families out of their homes by bringing their land, churches, and schools down to nothing but ashes.
The county went from having over 1,000 black residents in 1912 to 0 in 1920. After the black community had been run off, the white people of Forsyth County said, "You know what we could use? A big old lake." So they made one, right where the town of Oscarville had just been. They flooded the area and literally covered up the entire town with water.
By the late 1950s, what was once Oscarville was flooded for the creation of Lake Lanier.
This is what it looks like right now. But the town is still under there. The homes and churches and schools, they're still down there. And now people go boating on top of them.
According to historians, many of the community structures were not removed, including unmarked graves, and in a recent CNN report, a longtime diver, Buck Buchanan, claimed that he sometimes felt body parts in the lake while underwater. He expressed that one could reach out into the dark and feel an arm or a leg, and it doesn't move. Decades after the incident, in 1987, on an episode of The Oprah Show, Oprah Winfrey visited Forsyth County, which at the time hadn't had a black resident in 75 years, and today, only 4.9% of the county's population is black, 9.7% is Hispanic, and an overwhelming 72.6% of the residents are white, with 63.9% identifying as non-Hispanic white people. Number 2, Coahuila, Benson, Alabama.
Ever heard of Coahuila, Alabama? It was once a thriving black community with a black college, the first black railroad, and literally hundreds of family homes. Today, it's Lake Martin. At least they had the decency to name it after a black person.
Coahuila, Alabama, nestled along the shores of Lake Martin in Tallapoosa County, holds a unique place in the history of Alabama. Coahuila was founded by an enslaved individual named John Jackson Benson, who later became a freeman. On gaining his freedom, he went on a journey to rescue his sister in Florida, who was separated during slavery, and they made their way back to Alabama, where John worked in coal mines, and after earning $100 from his work, he used the money to purchase a portion of the land he was enslaved on. After purchasing the land, he worked the land until it yielded a profit. Then he used the profit to buy more of the land. He repeated the process until he owned about 3,000 acres of the land. Benson soon built a farmhouse, sawmill, cotton gin, grist mill, brickyard, and school, helping Coahuila to grow into a community that housed black and white families. The community is a home to the first black-owned railroad started by William E. Benson and the black school Coahuila Academic and Industrial Institute. John Benson's son, William E. Benson, was the founding president of the Dixie Industrial Company. The Dixie Industrial Company was able to succeed by exporting lumber to Europe. Unfortunately, the company lost financial control, due to their exporting ports being closed because of World War II, and Benson was replaced as president by the company's largest stockholder. The case was later taken to court, but the Dixie Industrial Company was eventually lost. Coaliga's hopes for future growth came crashing with the construction of Martin Dam on the Tallapoosa River in 1926. The Martin Dam was constructed by the Alabama Power Company to generate hydroelectric power. The dam created Lake Martin, one of the largest man-made lakes in the United States at the time of its completion. The creation of Lake Martin brought significant changes to the region. One of the biggest changes was the closing of the Coaliga community. The residents of Coaliga were displaced by the building of the Martin Dam and the financial troubles that were caused by the exporting ports being closed. Once the Martin Dam was completed, the flow of water from the dam flooded the community of Coaliga, leaving another Black-owned community underwater. Number 3, Seneca Village in New York City.
And if you think this kind of thing only happened in the South, let me introduce you to a place called Central Park. Central Park used to have a Black community in it called York Hill. But the city of New York destroyed York Hill so that they could build the Central Park Reservoir. Because if there's one thing New York needs, it's another place for ducks to hang out. When the residents of York Hill were kicked out of their homes, they fled to another Black community nearby called Seneca Village. And then a few years later, New York destroyed Seneca Village too, so that they could build Central Park on top of it.
Before Central Park was created, the landscape along what is now the park's perimeter, from West 82nd to West 89th Street, was the site of Seneca Village, a community of predominantly African Americans, many of whom owned properties. By 1855, the village consisted of approximately 225 residents, made up of roughly 2/3 African Americans, 1/3 Irish immigrants, and a small number of individuals of German descent. One of few African American enclaves at the time, Seneca Village allowed residents to live away from the more built-up sections of downtown Manhattan and escape the unhealthy conditions and racial discrimination they faced there. The village was founded in 1825, when landowners in the area, John and Elizabeth Whitehead, subdivided their land and sold it as 200 lots. Andrew Williams, a 25-year-old African-American shoe shiner, bought the first 3 lots for $125. Also, Epiphany Davis, a store clerk, bought 12 lots for $578 US, and the AME Zion Church purchased another 6 lots. From there, a community was born. From 1825 to 1832, the Whiteheads sold about half of their land parcels to other African Americans, and by the early 1830s, there were no less than 10 homes in the village. There is a couple pieces of evidence that shows that residents had gardens and raised livestock in Seneca Village, and the nearby Hudson River was a likely source of fishing for the community. A nearby spring, known as Tanner's Spring, provided a water source. By the mid-1850s, Seneca Village comprised 50 homes and 3 churches, as well as burial grounds, and a school for African American students. For African Americans, Seneca Village offered the opportunity to live in an autonomous community far from the densely populated downtown. Despite New York State's abolition of slavery in 1827, discrimination was still prevalent throughout New York City and severely limited the lives of African Americans. Seneca Village's remote location likely provided a refuge from this climate. It also provided an escape from the unhealthy and crowded conditions of the city and access to more space both inside and outside the home. Compared to other African Americans living in New York, residents of Seneca Village seem to have been more stable and prosperous. By 1855, approximately half of them owned their own homes. With property ownership came other rights not commonly held by African Americans in the city, namely the right to vote. The fact that many residents were property owners contradicts some common misperceptions during the mid-19th century that the people living on the land slated for the park were poor squatters living in shanties. While a few residents lived in shanties and in crowded conditions, most lived in 2-story homes. Census records show that residents were employed, with African Americans typically employed as laborers and in service jobs, the main options for them at the time. Records also show that most children who lived in Seneca Village attended school. By the early 1850s, the city began planning for a large municipal park to counter unhealthful urban conditions and provide space for recreation. In 1853, the New York State Legislature enacted a law that set aside 775 acres of land in Manhattan from the 59th to the 106th streets between 5th and 8th Avenues to create the country's first major landscape public park. The city acquired the land through eminent domain, the law that allows the government to take private land for public use with some compensation paid to the landowner. This was a common practice in the 19th century and had been used to build Manhattan's grid of streets decades earlier. There were roughly 1,600 inhabitants displaced throughout the area. Although landowners were compensated, many argued that their land was undervalued. Ultimately, all residents had to leave by the end of 1857, and with that, the Seneca Village was torn down for the construction of Central Park. The only thing that remains of the community is a commemorative plaque, dedicated in 2001 to the lost village. Number 4, Susanna, Alabama. Beneath some of Lake Martin's deepest waters, the Blue Creek town of Susanna was a thriving business center before the construction of Martin Dam nearly 100 years ago. According to Alabama Living magazine, more than 900 bodies were moved from cemeteries before the land was submerged. The town once included a gold mine, a school, 2 mercantiles, a grist mill, a flour mill, a sawmill, a blacksmith shop, and a church. Number 5, Vanport, Oregon. A perfect storm of racism, poor urban planning and flood management, bad weather and community history conspired to construct the Vanport disaster. As World War II ramped up, Portland shipyards began pumping out ships as fast as they could. Laborers flocked to Portland for the abundant shipyard jobs, and so workforce housing was desperately needed, especially for black workers, who were excluded from living in most Portland neighborhoods by racist policies and laws. Located between Vancouver and Portland, Vanport was a massive wartime housing development built to address the region's pressing need for affordable accommodation. Constructed in a remarkable 110 days, Vanport consisted of 10,000 inexpensive units, situated on a diked floodplain of the Columbia River. Vanport grew to be the largest black community in the state, home to institutions like the Vanport Extension Center, which later became Portland State University. After the war, residents started to move out of Vanport to areas with greener pastures, but other housing options were still limited for black people and other people of color, such as Japanese Americans who had been released from internment camps. So, many of them stayed back. By 1948, the Vanport population included 12,600 whites, 5,000 African Americans, and 900 Japanese Americans. Then came the flood. In late May 1948, snowmelt and heavy rainfall caused the Columbia to rise and overflow its banks. Despite being in a floodplain, Vanport was not evacuated. Even worse, residents were specifically told that they were safe, therefore leaving the human residents unevacuated. Moreover, hundreds of horses stabled at a nearby racetrack were removed before the flood. The tragic result led to the loss of many lives and the total destruction of the Vanport development. The flood not only destroyed physical homes and everything in them, but also scattered a vibrant community. Number 6, Eureka, Montella, and Lackawack. To provide water for New York City, the construction of the Rondout Reservoir displaced the 3 growing African American communities of Eureka, Montella, and Lackawack that were in the area. All structures were removed, all fences, trees, hedges, even tall weeds and roads were dug up to maintain the purity of the future water supply. Property owners were required to put in claims for the value of their lands and were usually paid less than half of the asking price. Provision was also made to pay 6 months' lost wages for resulting loss of employment in businesses closed because of the project. An attempt by the village of Ellenville to stop the reservoir on the grounds that it would hinder the future public health, welfare, and development of the village did not succeed. To add salt to injury, residents were denied easy access to the new roadways by the placement far within the taking line, although the local towns attempted to fight this in court. In the end, the interests of New York City and its need for water trumped the concerns of the locals. Number 7. Willow Grove, Tennessee. The community was established by African Americans seeking to create safe havens and economic opportunities for themselves, away from the racial segregation and discrimination that pervaded much of the South. It was a small community situated along the Cumberland River and was Clay County's second largest town at its peak, with a grist mill, school, several churches, and a few businesses. The town's promising future was halted in the 1940s when the plan to build the Dale Hollow Reservoir was announced. Residents were forced to relocate prior to the demolition of their homes and businesses and the flooding of the area. The townspeople even held a farewell celebration at a community picnic in the schoolyard in 1942. Today, the area is still submerged, and the remnants of Willow Grove, now known as the town that drowned, are hidden beneath the reservoir's surface, making it an underwater ghost town, remembered by local history and the occasional tale from old residents. With a visit to the area, you may spot the tops of buildings and structures still intact under the surface. Number 8. Guild in Marion County, Tennessee. Located along the Tennessee River, the Hales Bar Dam in Guild, Tennessee is steeped in history and haunting tales. Once a revolutionary hydroelectric facility, it was plagued by construction accidents and later decommissioned and abandoned in the 1960s. As the dam was constructed, the flooding of the area below the dam submerged an entire city, including the town cemetery. Known as Long Cemetery, it was not emptied of bodies before the flooding, and many say the spirits of those buried still haunt the site to this day. Visitors often speak of ghosts and unexplained phenomena near the powerhouse and surrounding waters. With its combination of historical significance and supernatural lore, Hales Bar Dam invites exploration for paranormal enthusiasts and curious guests alike. Number 9. Lewiston, Tennessee. The community is situated in Big Ridge State Park in Maynardville and is an underwater town that tells a story of loss and nostalgia. Once home to a vibrant community called Lewiston in the early 19th century, it was submerged in the mid-1900s when the area was flooded to create a reservoir, leaving behind remnants of homes and buildings beneath the water's surface. At the time, about 70 residents were displaced and relocated to surrounding counties. Remnants of the structures, including several businesses, schools, and churches, were covered by water and still remain below the surface of the lake to this day. Exploring the area, one gets a certain eerie stillness of the lake that often gives way to whispers of the past, with tales and struggles of those who once lived in the town surfacing in the minds of visitors. Many report sightings of old structures just below the water. The combination of serene natural beauty and ghostly lore makes Lewiston Sea at Big Ridge State Park a fascinating destination to add to your itinerary. Number 10. Tharp, Tennessee. Nestled in the rolling hills of Middle Tennessee, Tharp was once a thriving community, originally known as Iron Mountain, named for the giant furnace that was constructed in the mid-1800s due to the discovery of iron ore deposits in the area. The small town had a post office, general store, school, mills, churches, and even a doctor's office, which still stands today. Eventually, after the Civil War, a lumber company purchased the old furnace lands, and eventually a railroad tie company used the area to make railroad ties. Though the town was never incorporated, by the early 1900s, Tharp had a blacksmith shop and even a tobacco prizing factory. However, by the late 1960s, when the land between the lakes was created, the small but active town seemingly disappeared off the map. Today, remnants of the historic town can still be visited via Tharp Road, where vestiges of this once thriving small Tennessee community remain, offering a glimpse into its past. Number 11. Old Jefferson, Murfreesboro. Once a small town located at the original seat of Rutherford County, the town was abandoned and burned down in anticipation of a flood that never came. In the 1950s, some group of construction engineers told residents that their town would be permanently flooded to create Percy Priest Reservoir. Eventually, the town was torn down, hauled away, and its remnants were burned down. However, as the new reservoir filled up, the water did not extend as far as originally projected due to underground caves at what is now Long Hunter State Park. Although there are rumors that some old foundations and some remnants are still left in the area, a visit to the site of Old Jefferson wouldn't be complete without checking out Percy Priest Lake and other sites like Long Hunter State Park. Number 12, Old Danville Grain Elevator in Stewart County. Danville, Tennessee was once a thriving river town situated on the banks of the Tennessee River, near Kentucky Lake, and a central link between Memphis and Louisville. The town was an important commercial center, known for its bustling docks and recognizable grain elevator, which was a major hub for local agriculture. However, when the construction of Kentucky Lake in the 1940s led to the flooding of the area, much of Danville became an underwater town. Despite the town's disappearance, the large, iconic grain elevator still stands tall above the waters of Kentucky Lake, a striking reminder of the town's past and a notable landmark for those visiting the area. Number 13, Johnsonville. Johnsonville, Tennessee, was a small rural town established in the early 19th century. It was situated in Humphreys County, near the confluence of the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers. The town grew steadily, with a population of around 1,000 residents by the mid-20th century. However, the town's fate was sealed in the 1940s, when the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, began constructing Kentucky Lake. The lake was created by building a dam on the Tennessee River, which would flood a vast area, including Johnsonville. In 1945, the town was officially abandoned and its residents relocated. The buildings, homes, and infrastructure were either demolished or left to be submerged by the rising waters. Today, Kentucky Lake is a popular recreational destination, attracting tourists for boating, fishing, and other water sports. Meanwhile, the remnants of Johnsonville remain hidden beneath the lake's surface, a ghostly reminder of the town that once thrived there. Number 14, Elkmont. Nestled in the Great Smoky Mountains, National Park is a fascinating remnant of a once thriving logging community and a popular vacation spot in the early 20th century. Now the area is largely abandoned, a true Gatlinburg, Tennessee ghost town, which offers a glimpse into the past with its dilapidated cabins and historic structures. The National Park Service has been in the process of restoring many of these historic buildings since the early 1990s, with 16 cabins now preserved, restored, and open for total public access. As you wander through the overgrown paths and old homes, the eerie silence is often interrupted by whispers of the town's former residents, believed to linger in the shadows. Ghost stories abound, with visitors reporting mysterious sounds and apparitions, especially in the old resort buildings. Elkmont is a must-visit for those intrigued by both nature and the supernatural, inviting exploration of its haunted tales. Number 15, Elba Woods, North Dakota. Elba Woods was one of several Native American towns along the Missouri River, which were permanently flooded following the completion of the Garrison Dam in North Dakota in 1953. The town was established in 1891 to be the local Indian headquarters for the region's Hidatsa, Mandan, and Arikara tribes. By the 1950s, many of the natives in town had become Christians and operated the gas stations, stores, post office, and other businesses typical of a rural town of a few hundred people, as well as the reservation's main school and hospital, also located at Elba Woods. The reservoir that formed behind the Army Corps of Engineers Garrison Dam was named after Sacagawea, the legendary Shoshone Indian woman who guided Lewis and Clark through the mountains of Montana. 200-mile-long Lake Sacagawea, the third largest reservoir in the country, flooded a quarter of the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, forcing the relocation of over 325 families, which was about nearly 80% of the population on the reservation at that time. Many moved to a newly established community called Newtown, where now about 1,500 members of the three affiliated tribes live a modern life with a large casino. Number 16, Kennett, California. Though the old mining town of Kennett was a faded relic of its boomtown self, by the time it was flooded by Lake Shasta in 1944, it was still home to 100 people. Like other gold rush towns in Northern California, it was established for mining and prospecting in the region in the 1950s, but it wasn't until a railroad camp was built in 1883, with over 1,000 Chinese laborers, that the population began to rise substantially. Gold was discovered nearby the next year, and a post office came in 1886. The largest copper smelter on the West Coast opened in 1950, and by 1911, over 3,000 people lived in town. The hills around the town were exfoliated and denuded by the acid fumes from the smelter, and farmers in the valley 15 miles away began a suit against the company that operated the smelter for destruction of their crops. The mines closed after the end of World War I, the smelter soon followed, and Kennett's population fell over the next 2 decades. The town now rests beneath 400 feet of water, along with many of the region's smelters, paint factories, and mines, and their surrounding despoiled soils. Number 17, Neversink, New York City. Neversink, whose fateful name is said to be derived from the Indian word Newasink, meaning continuously flowing, was the larger of 2 communities that were removed from the reservoir site in 1942. The other town was called Bittersweet, and there, a total of 340 people were evicted from the valley, and about 6,149 acres of land were condemned. Some buildings were relocated to nearby towns, though most were bulldozed and burned in a final harvest. Trees were removed, cellars were filled in, privies disinfected, and even barnyard manure was said to have been dug up to maintain New York City's reputation for having the finest quality drinking water possible. The Neversink Reservoir began to flood the land on June 4, 1953, and took 2 years to fill. Number 18, Butler, Tennessee. Butler was known to be the largest single community and the only incorporated town removed by the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, throughout that entire massive Depression-era public works project to modernize and electrify the rural parts of 7 southeastern United States. Butler was the commercial center for the Watauga Valley in eastern Tennessee and the only real town in the region, with a population of around 600 people. It was a typical southern town with 2 barbershops, 2 beauty parlors, markets, the Bluebird Cafe, hardware store, drugstore, a few service stations, a few hotels, 3 churches, a rail station, Masonic Lodge, a Brick City Hall, bank, and doctors' and dentists' offices. Located in the forested hills of Appalachia, local industries were mostly wood-related and included a lumber company, a crating company, a furniture company, and a casket company. In 1948, when the floodgates were closed, the Watauga Dam and Reservoir began flooding 458 square miles along the Watauga River. With over 735 families already displaced, about 175 buildings, including shops, barns, churches, and homes, were moved to higher ground, to a new town site named New Butler. Most buildings were demolished on site, and about 1,200 bodies were moved from the graveyards. Some families opted to leave the graves of their ancestors undisturbed, so they are still there, along with a reported slave graveyard that TVA crews never found. When Old Butler was exposed in the 1983 drawdown conducted to service the dam, Don Stout's shoe store, made of stone, and the one-room jailhouse, made of concrete, stood out from the other foundations and building pads along the muddy streets, still lined with trees, long dead but preserved by the water. Number 19, Enfield, Massachusetts. The scenic New England villages of Dana, Prescott, Greenwich, and Enfield were disincorporated on the same day, April 28, 1938. Over the next year, the valley was demolished and deforested by over 1,000 woodpeckers, immigrant workers from Boston, who at times ran amok in the doomed landscape, living in the vacated houses along the main streets, burning churches without authorization. Some of the old buildings were moved to other towns, but most were bulldozed into piles and burned, as was 30 square miles of forest. The valley was on fire for months. In all, just 2,500 people were relocated, and 7,000 bodies were reinterred from local cemeteries to higher ground. The Quabbin finished filling in 1946, and it had no flood control, electrical generation, or navigation functions. It was built for one purpose only, to serve the drinking water needs of Boston, 60 miles away. Still called the largest single-purpose reservoir in the nation, it served as the city's primary water source. Number 20, St. Thomas, Nevada. Like most of the early settlements in the desert Southwest, St. Thomas was established in an area of available water, in this case the comparatively lush Moapa Valley, 50 miles northeast of where Las Vegas is now. The town started as a Mormon outpost in 1865 and was later part of a chain of agricultural communities in the valley following the Muddy River, including Moapa, Logandale, and Overton, that were otherwise surrounded by arid desert. St. Thomas had a peak population of around 500 people, and for a while was known for producing cantaloupes and asparagus. A railway spur served the valley, and US 91, the main highway to Los Angeles before Interstate 15, went through town, making it a stop for motorists. In 1938, however, as Lake Mead crept northward, filling in behind the Boulder Dam, St. Thomas, located at a lower elevation at the southern end of the valley, was flooded. At the moment, due to regional drought conditions, portions of about 40 buildings are visible at the exposed remains of St. Thomas, including the Old School and the Hanig Ice Cream Parlor. Also visible is the foundation of the Gentry Hotel, where former President Herbert Hoover stayed in 1932 while inspecting the nearby construction project he had helped to create. Each of these towns represents a different element of America's development, yet they all share the same fate. They, and hundreds of other communities like them, were vacated, demolished, and flooded to make way for dams and reservoirs. Their remnants persist, preserved underwater, and sometimes emerge as haunting, painful reminders of what was not allowed to be.
Cut some dang checks. That's it. If you're going to kick black people out of their homes, make sure they have the money to stay on their feet. Cut a dang check.
In too many parts of the U.S., these ugly stains of the country's racism are being preserved while eliminating memories of the thriving black communities that once stood strong.
You can pay their descendants too, because generational wealth is one of the many things that is destroyed when you put black communities underwater. So cut a dang check.
These black ghost towns and communities once stood strong and tall as a testament to the strength, innovation, and independence of their residents until they were destroyed by white American mobs and government. However, as earlier mentioned at the start of this video, it's no mistake to say that the U.S. is a country that went from enslaving black people to wiping out the communities they built post-slavery. Today, most of its white citizens are prohibiting the teaching of that history, while simultaneously promoting a false account of that history. A good instance of this is seen in Florida's new African American Studies curriculum that teaches students that enslaved people saw personal benefit from their captivity. It is a heartbreaking testament to the legacy of racist cruelty that too many Americans insist on upholding. In order to create a better black society, we all have to come together to share and confront the pains and plight of African Americans, both in the past and in this modern era. This brings us to the end of yet another sobering video that highlights the hidden histories of black life in the U.S. Don't forget to kindly support us by hitting the thumbs up button in front of you. Share this video with friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening black narratives. And if you haven't subscribed, endeavor to do so in order to have access to more informative videos on hidden narratives of black history. It's a great delight having you on this journey with us. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.